Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm sure so far everybody kind of get understanding what the practice is about it, what's the best practices, and we learn the problems, we learn the and then security-related issues. But I'm going to talk about really where can we start, what we have to do. And there is no such blueprint that everybody can take the DevOps practice and process implemented. It is going to change the organizational needs. It's going to change who you are, what you do, and how you think. So I'm going to talking about specifically the requirements gathering to make it successful. It's just a quick thing, so I'm going to read it. So I'll talk about a little bit background and what is really requirements gathering means in terms of rugged DevOps, and talking about the problems and what is the really reason we need to have a requirements gathering because we don't want to fail, and talking about the assessments and talking about the requirements, and then finish up the talk. So a little bit background, who am I, and organizationally. And Software Engineering Institute is part of CMU, Carnegie Mellon, and SCI produces CMMI. Who uses the CMMI? Anybody knows the CMMI? Right, it's more about like a process, more about maturity models. So we're not doing any CMMI anymore. It's kind of like in the history seems. However, based on the technology changes, technology needs, and we started the research more about the software development and in terms of acquisition, in terms of maintenance and practitioner perspective. So as an SCI, and we do a lot of government organizational needs and assessment in the government organization, and based on the DevOps spirit, and help them build up the DevOps in the government or the DoD space and the research as well. Then by default, we have to put security in it. So whatever we do as part of CERT, I'm working with CERT as well. CERT is underneath of the SCI. Then we have to do security as by product, by default. So it is another quality attribute, but we have to include security into our process. And I have 25 years of experience in software developments. So I kind of feel a little bit guilty because at the end of the day, we are developers. If something goes wrong and people are going to come and ask a question from us as developers, why didn't do that? Because at the end of the day, developers are writing the code. We are writing the code. If something is that I messed up the code and I have to fix it, I have to find the problems. Of course, there's a security folks are doing the measurement, everything else, and operational team are supporting infrastructure. At the end of the day, developers are doing the work. So I kind of feel that we have to do something as a developer-centric and then make sure DevOps or the development security activities is part of our work. But developers, as myself, we need the help. Remember that I'm going to come back to the why I need the help. So a common question when we do any assessments, when we go anywhere else, we keep hearing the question is basically, how can I implement the rugged DevOps process in my team, maybe in my directorate and in my organization, name it. So that's like a very, very generic question. I hear it, and then the customers or the people are coming asking from us. So to do that, and then the question is how to assess the current state, what we should know ourselves, because we have to understand who we are. Even when we go buy something from the store, really we have to get our needs. What I needed, do I need everything, or do I need buy a small stuff? Do I need a big? So we have to understand what I need to have it. And then what are the other problems in my organizational things? What are the bottlenecks that I have to be addressing? Because I need to implement a pipeline, I need to implement DevOps, but what are the bottlenecks that I need to find out? Then end of the day, then what type of skill set is required to implement DevOps, rugged DevOps? Because it is not as a new job that you can post it, even though there's a lot of job descriptions available, but it is what type of skills is required. Then how can we train a team of people as part of the application, the development lifecycle? How can we train what we have to know? And how can we measure and how can we monitor? So these are common questions. With that said, and everybody knows the Rugged Manifesto. I know I'm not going to read everything else. You just go and take a look at ruggedsoftware.org. This is the kind of like an end goal we would like to build it in our application lifecycle pipeline. Our application that we are developing should be a rugged, so right? And then who developed that rugged as Josh Corman as the founder, and David Russ and Jeff Williams are the founder of the Rugged DevOps. So this kind of like a very high-level manifesto we have to be in remembering and putting DevOps things. So let's talk about the common problems so we can understand what the requirements gathering means. So we got a lot of questions and a lot of requests from people when they try to implement DevOps. They kind of got, hey, help. I mean, I bought these tools and I have people and I started developed it, and I started put DevOps, but I'm failing. Can you help me? So we get a lot of requests. So quick question to you, who ever practiced DevOps so far got failed? Anybody else? Which is not working probably, so we failed, and maybe because a couple of reasons. So let's think about a little bit why it has failed, what went wrong. So based on our research, based on our findings, these are the couple highlights that we find out why is failing, what is that? The first one is everybody is believing DevOps is fad, it's kind of like a fashion. And I heard that. I mean, a couple generals, they visited the Google and Amazon, and then they came to the military unit, they said, we have to do DevOps starting from tomorrow, because that's how the Google is doing it. Let's make that, because it's kind of like a fashion word in DevOps, let's get it done. It's not a fashion, it's a reality, okay? And when you take it as a fashion and try to replicate it, and then you'll be ending up a problem. Another problem we heard so far is it's about the tooling, all right? I will buy a tool. Tool is great. I'm not going to say anything about the vendor because we are looking for here. They're supporting us. It is not bad things, but it is not only the tooling. If you have a tool that you give to the organizational unit or at developers or the team members, if tool is not used, what is the benefit of that tooling in your organization? If the tool is not talking to each other, what is the benefits of that tooling if it is siloed? We are, as a DevOps community, we are saying we should not put a silo in between our team members, right? If the tool is bringing a silo into our pipeline, we are failing again. Like one practical example, if developers are using wiki pages or the Confluences, any type of like a DevOps tools, and then turning back to another computer and using a SharePoint site for their daily activity reporting, how it is going to work out? The two tools may not be talking to each other, so it's not only the tooling. It is not only Dev and Ops, it is all beyond that. And I know we talk about so far an operational perspective, Dev perspective, but it's beyond that. Getting only Dev and Ops together, it is not going to solve the security problem, because security is not only the Dev and Ops job, it is beyond that, which we know it. So, and the other things, like same for all the organizational things. Whatever the other organization does, let's have a copy and put into our organization. I know DevOps Handbook is a great example. There's many practices, but none of the practices may not be work for you because your need is different. Your culture is different. Your need is different. Your team members are different. And you have a different type of compliances. You're not the same as the Aetna DJ is talking about in terms of HIPAA compliances. You may be in a different business and it's a FIPS compliant. Maybe you're in the government, there's a total different compliance in the government space, so it's changing different needs. Now we have to understand what is my compliance, what is my need, so I can put it into my DevOps process. And the main thing is also it's not a new organizational unit. It is not a new group of new team members. So while we are putting a rugged DevOps pipeline or a cultural, we are not going to create a new unit. It calls a DevOps team. And I heard a lot of DevOps team in different organizations because we are DevOps team. It's not a team, because when we say a DevOps team, it's creating another silo. It is everybody's job. When you say, is it just a security folks, is it DevOps, DevSecOps teams? It's, again, we are failing again. It should not be an organization unit. It should be throughout the life cycle things. So let's talk about where we can start now. Okay, so what we did based on the work. So basically, we've interviewed the functional leads from different teams, find out what is the team leads that we are talking together within organization application lifecycle, application developments. And then basic review of them is validation statement in terms of like what's the observation of the work environments and shadowing, and look for demonstration of the tools, and the culture perspective, understand what organizational cultures, and look for the legal risk management stakeholder. This is kind of like a very outline things for the risk, the current state assessments. So we have to understand where we are, right? We have to know all these things, right? How can we do that? So this is the typical action plan for an assessment of the organization. So agreed on definition. I am sure everybody says, yeah, everybody knows what the definition means, like Dev and Ops. Everybody knows Dev and Ops. Everybody knows the CI and CD. But believe me, an organizational, some of them, even though when you say operations, it's a totally different meaning. Anybody from government here, like a military, the audit space? You know what operation means in the audit space? I will read it. So there's a military dictionary, and page 180, it says, there's two meanings. Operation, one is a sequences of tactical actions with a common purposes or unifying team. The second meanings, a military action or the carrying out of a strategic operational tactical service, training, and administrative military mission. So in the DoD context, when you say operations, people are going to say, what that means? I mean, operation is, the soldier has a gun and it's on the field. So it's a totally different meaning of operations in the DoD and government space. So that means we have to really get the definitions in upfront and let the people who are interviewing understand what we are talking about it. Then identify stakeholders. It's another big challenge. Who are the stakeholders in the application lifecycle? Like application, one can develop only for DevOps, and who are deciding, who are the requirements gathering, who are the folks that are requesting the overall the pipelines. And then perform interview each team members, and then identify, analyze, collect the data, and review, get back to the team. So in assessment process, all right, we got our plans, and we're going to go to process. So what we should do next to understand, and typically have a schedule and talk to interview, make it interview. When I say interview, it's not a job interview. People are really thinking, okay, I'm going to get interviewed to find out my weakness or strength. But culturally, we have to understand organizational needs and talking with the people as an interview. And then, and also we need an anonymous survey to understand the cultural problems. Nobody in organization and a developer or management level will say if there is anything culture-related problems. Like maybe testing team, they don't like the dev team. It's a common thing, but maybe some other personal type of situation, maybe some other bureaucratic things our manager are forcing to do that. So we can capture only that type of problems having an anonymous survey within the team members. Otherwise, we cannot capture the problems. Then analyze the outcomes and then feedback to the team and brief the executive team. So without getting executive power, we cannot implement Rugged DevOps as well. Because we need a power from the executive team members. We need a power from directors and managers to implement it. So we're going to starting from the bottom up and going to the top, but really we have to get the executive team at the end of the day, here's the plan, what we should do, so we have to brief back to the executive teams. So identifying stakeholders is a challenge, right? Why is that a challenge? Because software is a very, very, very complex systems. And we talk about developers. Developer is the centric. Developer does all the performance update, programming, and coding, right? So now we got the developers. But again, software is a big, complex system. We need other components. We need the IT operational. So we develop something. We are handing over to operation, which Damon was talking about operational needs, which is requiring another stakeholder. So end of the day, they will get it. And we need the quality assurances, folks. And because our application should be quality enough, should be enough quality based on the function requirements. I'm not talking about the security function requirements, the functional requirements. But we have to change our mindset and to get secured into our quality assurances. Then business analysts and other stakeholders, which actually deriving application development and business analysts are the key personnel. Because at the end of the day, we have to get money from where? Somebody has to pay, our customers to pay, or we are getting direction based on the funding sources, and business analysts will do for the legal and marketings and also the money association and business constraint. This is the roles over there. But we have to talk to them, we have to understand, we have to put security in the business analyst perspective. And also, lastly, for information security. So now we develop application based on the requirements gathering, and then we do all the testing and everything is great, and IT operation is pictured. So now we are talking about the information security. So that means security folks is part of it. So we talk about so far getting the security into the operational team working together. Now we need to understand what information security means. So let's deep dive into each topics a little bit, and then talking about the requirements. So when you do the assessment for the business analyst, these are the things you have to really make sure to understand what the business analyst does to understand based on Rugged. Requirements development and management. When we do requirements development, if we are not adding a security requirements into the requirements development, we are missing the components. If the requirements analysis or business analyst will not putting it in place, getting a security requirements, or convincing the customers, or convincing the upper management, putting a team together, there is no way to get a security into the process. And other things for acquisition and contracting purposes, we have to understand how the acquisition system is working, what's the procurement system is working. Why is that important? Because we have to put the proper verbiage into the acquisition process in terms of the SLA maybe, in terms of the requirements we have to put into the acquisition process. So we have to understand how the application has been bought. And then we know that application development is not writing everything from scratch. It was 25 years ago. When I wrote an application 25 years ago, I was writing everything by myself as C++, we're going to maybe as a team together. Now things got changed because we depend on other libraries, depend on other CUT solution. So when we buy a CUT solution, how can we measure the security context in the CUT solution? How can we document that in our procurement system to manage it? The other thing is important, we have to understand risk management process. So security is based on the risk. How much you tolerate the risk, and we can put a security in place. How much money is going to cost that getting a security risk together? So if the organization risk management team is working by itself as a silo, without thinking of security as part of life cycle, we are failing. So we have to understand risk management and the requirements too. And the other thing, compliance requirements. As I said, every organization's compliance different than others. If you are in the HIPAA and compliances, there's a different type of security controls versus SOX. If you're in the financial sector, there's a total different compliances. So who are these people are looking for validating code, and compliance people are validating the code? If you are developing a rugged application at then, somebody has to evaluate that based on the compliances. So we have to get the compliances picture into the process so we can understand the needs. And the project planning and tracking. So how can we track the progress? Are we on target yet? Or if you are on target, how much we address the secret in our pipeline, where we are in terms of the process. Then we will talk about developers. Developers are looking for methodologies, like how they are really working together and daily, or taking the project and managing the task and handing over tasks to each and another one. Maybe they're using different type of development framework, maybe Agile, maybe Waterfall, maybe Safi. It depends on what they do. So I believe that as personally, DevOps can be applicable for almost every application development models, even though you may say that how it is going to work for the waterfall. The waterfall in the old days, it's about siloed, but within the technology right now, if you're able to change the requirements fast and quick, we can do that. If you look at IEEE standardization, there is a guidelines that you can do. But the problem in old days, we are handing over the requirements for another one. So, but it's applicable. And how the development environment it is. So how the developer are using development environments, what type of tools are they using it, how they are testing it, how they are getting together, how they are managing their work, and then collectively and deciding what this completion means. And collaborating with other team members. If there is a multiple organizational development team are working the project, how they are collaborating each other, we have to understand that problem too. So put a security in place. And the quality assurances. In that perspective, we have to understand what the software testing methodologies are. If you are trying to put automation into the software testing procedures, you have to understand what type of testing modules or the procedure methodologies are they using it. Like a V model, or a test-driven developments, or looking for different testing technology which is specific to that organization or unit they do. Without understanding how they are doing the testing, we cannot put automation testing into our DevOps pipeline. We cannot then secure the testing as an automation as part of our process without understanding who we are, what we do. And software quality assurances. Is there any process and methodologies that we do the quality assurance? Who are the verification, validation purpose in our team or the organization does that? So we have to understand the verification process. Then we can put a proper break into our software pipeline so we can release it or that break it and wait it. And the feedback to the dev team is another important thing, like how we are getting the feedback to the dev team. Are they using the email system? Are they using the paper? Are they using the dashboard? Are they using any type of automated system or not? And then deployment release. So how the application is deployed, how the software configuration management is work, how the integration process is working together. So, and software verification validation comes up again. How much we trusted that we are deploying a code will be securely enough in production. How can we check authenticity of the code that has been built in our build server goes to the production? I mean, there's tools out there, but who's going to be verified that we can break any type of insider type of attack or insider threats, and so people cannot really take the advantage of it, right? And then audit process. If you're in the financial sector, you have to audit the application. You have to audit the software. What's the audit process that has to be in the place? And then secure deployment pipelines. How can the secure deployment pipeline in terms of supply hygiene and everything else is part of our deployment pipeline. Then IT operation, when we talk about IT operational, and then we have to understand software operational process and team engagements and policy knowledge management, what the IT is following the policy management so as part of their operational perspective. How the IT is managing assets, because IT may be putting a lot of restriction into developers. If the developer is not able to utilize some open source tools and technologies, there's a barrier over there. So we have to understand how the IT's expectations are and connect the developers together. Because if the developers are doing something, but maybe IT is not approving that request, there's a bottleneck over there. So we have to find that bottleneck as well. What type of governance IT is complying? What is service management? And then what is audit and monitoring? So then we can put a security in place. And come to the information security assessment piece, we have to understand management, auditing of supply chain, and the security controls. What type of security control has to be in place, and that may depend on organizational posture, organizational needs. So get that information put in the developers level. And security policies compliances, application security testing, and how the information security folks are doing the security testing. How can we get security testing to the left and shift it and make sure that it's part of our requirements gathering and part of our team members. Then main things also a technology stack. We find that a lot of people are failing because of getting a totally different tool set may not be compatible with the language the developer are using it. Or picking a solution with not compatible with IT. IT has a totally different solution, may not be compatible with what the developer are using it. And that might be a legacy systems. If there's a legacy system, you may have a totally different ball games in terms of legacy systems. Maybe like there's a COBOL system probably, or a mainframes, or using C++, maybe a firmware applications being developed. And how can you get a rugged application for IoT devices? Then you have to pick the tools and technology based on what is your IoT device using a language, maybe C++. Then you look for the C++ related security controls and checklists. If it is using a Python, you have to look for different type of frameworks. If you're using a Django or Mango, different type of frame, look specific tool set will be compatible. And then application development support tools. And the other things also of the reuse process. If the organization is mandated to keep the libraries, you cannot have enough money and energy to redevelop again and again and again. So as an organization, you have to put the libraries. When you put libraries, what is the process that everybody has to follow up? And accreditation approval, so how can we accreditation our process? Do we have to accredit every time we release another version, or we have to look from a beginning for accreditation as because time and money? Then lastly, we have to have a metrics and measurement. So how can we put a software metrics, how we are successful, and how we are measuring the successful things? If we put the metrics maybe change your organizational needs. So a couple of things, you can put a quality metrics. What is your quality metric organization? You can use a checkpoint diagnosis as a part of it, and you can really get the notes in terms of the work-wise. And then end of the day, you have to define your end goal, the being a rugged, what the being rugged means for organization, what that means for their stakeholders. Then you have to identify the suitable project, because we got the requirements, right? We had assessments, and we have to find the suitable project so where we can implement it. Now, it's good to have a plan, so we have the plan, but if you don't put the plan in place, there is no way to get implement the plan, so you have to start from the simple project to do that. I know I'm running out of time, I had 5 minutes. So at the end of the assessment, there's three things it's important for us. We have to get the feedback to the team members. We analyze, we learn the problems, but using a DevOps way, it's a constant iteration. There is no way to get the one cycle, get the work done in one assessment. So we have to assess, we have to find the problems. So we get together and share the team. And share it together as with the team, get the feedback from the team. What I find out that based on our work, believe me, when we get developers or the QA tested into the same room, they understand it. I said, yeah, let's do this way. Here's a much better way to communicate it. Or getting a security folks into the same level with the developers or the QA people, create a lot of synergy between these two teams. They understand their needs and build together. Then based on the requirement that we collected, we require the prioritization of the requirements, and then collected, develop the plan based on the three things, a people and platform and the process. Because three things is the kind of like a pillar building a house. If you don't have a people, then you cannot build a process and platform. If you don't have a process, you cannot build a rugged platform. So people is more about the heavy collaboration between all team members, which is requiring secure design, secure environment, secure development planning, secure code review. Without having a people, we cannot do that. People means not only for dev and ops. People means everybody in the stakeholder that has the stake in the application development cycle. These are the people together we are building. It is not only a one person's job. It is not my job as a developer. It is all of us' job as a security application. So by feeling as developer responsible, but if security folks comes and gives me a 250 pages of security controls, I don't have enough time I don't have enough responsibility to make that happen, which is requiring more about the collaboration to work wise. And then constant available for communication, so we have to communicate each other. If you are communicating from different way, and maybe that developer are not comfortable using email system, why don't you use a chat system for the communications? And the process is important, and which enable people to succeed using a platform to develop a rugged application. So without defining how we can talk to each other, how we are sharing, and how we have a constant communications, we cannot build a rugged application because we depend on the process. It doesn't mean it has to be stricted. It doesn't have to be like wild and the cowboy coding, but it has to be an understanding, visual understanding from the development teams in terms of process, how we are communicating. Because the main goal is really get automation in place. Main goal is to use our time effectively. If your project manager comes and asks the meeting notes while developers are writing a code, this is the worst time project manager comes and asks, hey, give me the updates on the development environment, where you are. Versus, in a DevOps way, let the project manager goes and look for the current application track in terms of where we are, in terms of number of issues, number of cases. Let the project manager goes and pull the data. Why the project manager goes and pull up from the developer's time. Statistically, based on the CMU SCI statistics, developers are spending more than 50% of times for meetings. We have to drop that numbers as a meeting time, increase our productivities. If you're able to increase our developer productivities up to 75%, it's great. As an organization, we are utilizing developers much effectively than anything else. And platform is also an important piece. If you say the platform has to be automated, has to be integrated. Platform should be an enabler for the developers, and same as other stakeholders, for everything has to be done and protect and get information from the environments. Automated infrastructure testing, and parity for development and QA. So if the developer has the similar platform as in the production environment, that will be an end goal, and developer will have the exact same level of production capability in the laptops, so they can develop a rugged application, so security folks feel much ready and much able to go. And rugged continued. So rugged is the culture. It is not SDLC. It is not organization structures. And rugged is not equal to secure as well, because today we are developing an application. We can say, yes, today we are secure. Who can guarantee that tomorrow our application will be secure enough tomorrow? It may not, because threat adversary is changing, and we may using some open source tools today, maybe some other libraries, and tomorrow that might be some vulnerability in it. How can we assure that we are secure today? So, and then we have the proactive security is better than reactive. At the end of the day, we have to build up a Golden Gate bridge like that as an application should be rugged, and so we can safely go through or we can safely use it. And how can we trust an application in terms of application work-wise? And I have 1 minute, I guess. I have a couple slides, and then I can finish up here probably. So about that. So if anybody has any question, and then I'll be here to answer the further deep dive into the assessment piece. I know a lot to talk about it, but I didn't have enough time to do that, so I'm going to finish up here. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll be here. Okay, Mark.
It looked like you had a question. You can talk to Hasan in the hallway in the back when you're ready. That's good. Thank you. Okay, just to kind of round up what's going on, we're going to have another quick change up here to get a new machine up. If you want to stand up in place, that's great. Do a good stretch. We've got 2 more sessions to go with Oleg.